Hello guys, and welcome to part 2 of the Y-Wing Starfighter 172 scale Bandai build, which is now complete. Unfortunately, all the video footage I took for this part, over 30 gigs worth of it over the last few weeks, when I tried to import it into Final Cut Pro, I think I had a problem with my card and all the files are corrupt, and unfortunately I didn't figure that out until I'd finished the build and went to import it. So this is going to be a quick video, and it'll be a final reveal video, and I'll discuss, all the things that I did to get to where I am with the model. I can tell you now that as my first ever model, I have enjoyed doing this so much. I think once I'd resigned myself to the fact that things take time, so you have to put a layer of paint on, wait for it to dry, then carry on, that sort of thing, then everything from that point on was brilliant. So you can't do these models overnight, obviously, unless you're not going to paint them. So I just slowly plodded my way through, and I think I've ended up with a final model that I'm so proud of. I really enjoyed doing it. Okay, I can't stress that enough. I really enjoyed it. So as a final reveal video, let's have a quick spin around and look around the model, and I look forward to reading your comments on how you think I did for my first ever model. Okay. So that's the completed build, and I thought I'd start by letting you know the mistakes I made along the way. So these are not issues with the model itself, these are just mistakes that I made because I'm a novice at this. The first mistake was on the nose cone. So when I started to use the airbrush, I'd never used an airbrush before, and when I mixed the paint ready for the airbrush, I mixed the wrong ratio. So instead of putting 2 parts paint, 1 part thinner into the airbrush, I actually did it the other way around. So it was a schoolboy error, but what it meant was that the paint went on really thin. Obviously I had to put lots of coats on, and you can see that there's some crack in there as well on the nose cone. But I learnt my lesson there, and going through the rest of the model I didn't make that mistake again, and it all came out good in the end, and I actually like the cracking effect on the front anyway. Now the second thing is the droid. So the droid that pops in the top there, because I've got really duff eyesight, I had real problems seeing the detail on the droid. So it's come out not good at all. So what I'm going to do is clean all that paint off and actually do the droid again and see if I can make a better job of it. And thirdly, some of these parts are so tiny, and I was ever so careful with them when I was putting them in, but there were 2 tiny little pipes that should have gone into the neck on the sides. It's the same part both sides, and both of them broke when I was trying to get them in the holes. I think I lost one of them. I don't know where it went. It sort of flicked up into the ether and disappeared, and the second one broke in half, but I put that one on there anyway. So I've got 2 broken parts, but none of which you can really see when you're looking at the model overall, so it's not too bad. The rest of the parts went in fine. It was just those 2 little tiny pipes. So all in all, those are the only problems that I really had with this model. Obviously down to me and not the model itself. The model is fantastic. Now I did use the instructions and the pictures as a guide, but I didn't obviously make an exact replica of an original Star Wars model, which you can do. There are people who actually do that, but I actually wanted to go in there with my own mind and, you know, paint it how I thought it needed to be painted. So it's a little bit more weathered than you'll see, you know, on the telly, on the films, or with other builds that have been done. But in my eyes, this Y-wing is a right trooper. It's been through, you know, hell and back. And if that was coming at me, I'd be frightened to death, because he's obviously a seasoned pilot, and that he's been able to bring this Y-wing home multiple times. So yes, it's bashed up and dirty and oily, but in my eyes, that's how these models should look. I think they look absolutely superb when they're weathered up like this. So the steps that I took to get to this point then was, if you look in part 1, you'll see, you know, me initially painting and cleaning the parts off the sprue and all that kind of stuff. So really it was cleaning all the parts with soapy water and then rinsing them off and making sure they was absolutely dry. Then it was popping a coat of primer on there. Then it was the base colour, so I think it's AS20 base colour that I put on this whole model, apart from the parts that were supposed to be darker and blacker. So I put the base colour on first. Then I protected the base colour with a coat of gloss, and for that I used the Pledge, you know, floor polish as advised, and that worked out, you know, really, really well. So that protects the layer of paint, your base coats and your primer and all that kind of stuff. I then went in with a pin wash, you know, where you water down black or dark grey paint. Not water it down, I used thinner actually. I thinned it right down, so it was sort of, you know, 15 parts thinner to a couple of drops of black. And I just pin washed around all the panels to bring all the detail out. That worked out really well. I really enjoyed doing that. And then when that was dried, I just wiped off places where I'd, you know, put too much on, or places that where I wanted them to be brighter and whiter. So I went over with a bit more thinner, and, you know, it used a cotton bud to get that paint off. Then I went back in with the airbrush and did a few airbrush effects. So on the front of the engines, you know, I darkened that up a bit, because in my eyes that would be catching the most dirt and grime as it goes, you know, through the planet's surface or up in space. You know, things are always going to be hitting the front of that, and that's why it was chipped up so much as well. And when all that was done and, you know, completely dry, I went in and sprayed a coat of matte clear on it, so it was all shiny before I got the matte out. Sprayed the matte on it, and it dulled everything down, and it just brought it to life. It looked real. Well, it is real, but it looked bigger than it actually is. When you do the close-up shots, it actually looks fantastic. It looks like a full-size ship. The matte clear actually, you know, finished the model up nicely. But I wanted to do a little bit more, so I went back in with the Tamiya, you know, the little Tamiya weather pads, and put a little bit of rust on there, and a bit of silver, and a bit of copper and stuff like that on some of the pipes, and that really did just finish the model off nicely. And then for the stand, I just went over the stand with you know, a light grey colour, and then I did a little pin wash on it, and in the end I just put a matte coat on that as well. And the stem that holds the ship up, I didn't want to see any detail on that or anything, so I just sprayed that matte black and then coated that again with the matte varnish. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the Y-wing. As a first experience, you know, I enjoyed it. As I've already said, it was fantastic to do. Thinking about having a go at it, man, you've got to try it. These models are superb. And you know, obviously I lost a lot of video footage, but I'm going to rectify that in the next part, where I'm going to start building the X-wing. So I'm going to video that start to finish and make sure that I don't lose the bloody footage again. That was an absolute nightmare. It took me ages to record all that, and it's all gone down the pan. So that was the Y-wing, was my test model. The X-wing, I should be a lot better at doing that, and so I'll video that from front to back, and I'll post that here. Okay guys, if you like this video and my other videos, then please subscribe to me. It does help me out, and obviously thumbs up or thumbs down, it's up to you. And I'll see you in the next part.